Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. For those of you who have been fans of the show for, well, we're going into our 16th year now. We talk about HRT, and we've talked about HRT way before any of the mainstream shows ever did. And some of you may say, Carl, why are you doing this show? Like, we already know this. And it's because I'm always astonished when I meet people who don't know anything about hormone replacement therapy. And so this is kind of a remedial show. I understand that. But there's a lot of new listeners out there. There's always new listeners. And I've been saying for years now that where you get your information from is the new evolutionary selection pressure. And so people need to be informed in order to make good decisions. And I feel like we need to do this show again today. What's astonishing to me about the number of people who don't understand what HRT even is that there is an equal number of people out there who are misinformed and think HRT is dangerous. Yet prescribers will prescribe statin drugs, which lead to insulin resistance and muscle wasting. They will prescribe SSRIs, which have been tied very closely to depression and suicide, making people more depressed, actually, believe it or not. A myriad of type 2 diabetes drugs. I'll tell you an interesting story. And I'm not speaking out of turn. I know an 84-year-old man who's on testosterone. And some of you may say, why would an 84-year-old man be on testosterone? I'm going to tell you why. He suffers from COPD. And recently his physician decided that his testosterone levels, which were only like 700 nanograms a deciliter, were too high for his age. So they backed him down to a 200 milligram injection every other week, and his testosterone levels plummeted. Well, guess what else happened to him? He needed oxygen. When he gets his shot, he doesn't need his oxygen for 3 or 4 days. But as the testosterone levels start to bottom out, he needs oxygen. Why is that? Because testosterone stimulates erythropoiesis in the kidneys, which stimulates the production of red blood cells, which stimulates the bonding of oxygen to those red blood cells. So his blood carries more oxygen when his testosterone levels are normalized. But when they go down to that of an 84-year-old man or a 14-year-old girl, whichever way you want to look at it, he needs oxygen. Why doesn't his doctor pay attention to that? Because they're afraid of testosterone. Oh, testosterone's bad. It's a sex hormone. Yeah, we've had it our whole lives, but we've never had SSRIs or glucophage or any of these drugs that they prescribe that have horrible side effects. The reluctance of physicians to talk openly about hormone replacement therapy with their patients is underscored by the fact that they're ignorant about it. They're not taught about it in school because the pharmaceutical companies don't want people using these things. Think about that for a minute. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy in just a moment with my guest, Dr. Michael Platt. He's a returning guest. Before we do that, we have to thank our title sponsor, Legendary Foods. We have to thank them for two reasons. Number one, for giving us 10% off all the wonderful things at their website, shrnetwork.biz/legendary, but also for making the tasty pastry, which is fast becoming the snack of choice for people who care about what they're eating. 20 grams of high quality protein, less than 1 gram of sugar. You will eat them because they taste great, not because they're good for you. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. Listen during the commercial breaks for the secret word. I know I'm real far behind. A lot of you are going, hey, I entered like 3 weeks ago. I still don't have my tasty pastries. Be patient. I'm actually going to work on it next week when I'm in California at Legendary Foods, and I'll get everything caught up. But during the commercial break, you'll hear a secret word. Email that secret word to onair@superhumanradio.net. Include your mailing address, and we'll send you a free box of tasty pastry, courtesy of the generosity of Ron Penna. Now, without further delay, let me bring my guest on here. He is a returning guest, and he's Dr. Michael Platt. Last time he was on the show, we talked about adrenaline dominance, and we're going to talk about a little bit of that too today, because you can't talk about hormone replacement therapy without one of the most underestimated hormones, progesterone. How you doing, Dr. Platt? Welcome back.
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
So let's start off right at the beginning. The do's and don'ts of HRT. Why did you feel it was necessary to write that article, first of all?
You were absolutely correct when you said that, doctors receive little or no training in hormones. Even though hormones control every system in the body, everything is controlled by hormones, doctors get no training in it. And at the same time, they're not trained to treat the cause of illness. Now, the thing is that there are very few conditions that are not affected by hormones. But again, like everything else in life, there are good hormones and there are bad hormones. And we'll discuss actually the good, but I'll maybe point out some of the bad things.
So let's talk about some of the things that people walk in to see their doctor for, that actually should be treated with hormones first before going to harmful pharmaceutical drugs.
Excellent. Okay. Well, let's start with cholesterol. You mentioned statin drugs, and you're right. They're toxic. They cause brain damage, memory loss, permanent nerve damage, irreversible kidney failure, even heart damage and sudden death. And yet, what people don't realize is that people with the highest cholesterols have the greatest longevity. But the thing about cholesterol is that when I did my training, they used to talk about thyroid, and they call cholesterol the poor man's thyroid test. And the reason for that is that the thyroid controls cholesterol metabolism. So wouldn't it make more sense to check somebody's thyroid and put them on thyroid to lower their cholesterol rather than a toxic drug? Okay, so that's just one simple example.
Well, and I want to endorse what you just said, because I know a woman who was on HRT, and her estradiol levels were very low, even though she was being treated. Her estrone levels were very high, which is not a good thing, because that's associated with some problems. And so her physician, who's a friend of mine, gave her more estradiol in her cream, and as her estradiol levels came up, her cholesterol levels dropped. And to people, they would say, gee, why would that be? And that's because sex hormones are made from cholesterol. And so if you raise them, they need more cholesterol. It's like if you have a cold winter, you need more firewood. And so as a result, her cholesterol normalized just by raising her estradiol levels without statin drugs.
Carl, I have to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of estradiol.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, we're talking about hormones and we're talking about conditions. For example, estradiol is, and we'll talk about women now. Women get fibroids and endometriosis and polycystic ovaries. They're all related to estradiol. And the other thing is, estradiol can cause menstrual migraines, and it causes gallbladder disease and asthma. and it causes 6 different cancers. I mean, it's actually a fairly toxic hormone. What makes it safer is when you use progesterone.
Right.
Yeah. But so so we're talking about what people will walk into a doctor's office. We talk about cholesterol. What about headaches? A lot of people have heard of what are called migraine headaches, and yet there's another headache called occipital neuritis, which is a lot more common than migraine headaches, and these cause excruciating headaches. These are the kind of headaches that shoot right into the back of the eye. They're also associated with visual field defects or whatever. And again, it comes from the occipital nerve sheath at the base of the skull, and it's only caused by excess adrenaline. So just applying some progesterone cream on the back of the neck actually eliminates these headaches. Migraine headaches are hard to get with, but I'd say almost close to 100% of people that I have seen who thought they had migraine headaches actually had occipital neuritis. And it's a headache that's unknown to doctors for some reason.
What about anxiety? You said that anxiety is actually tied to progesterone levels, right?
Well, actually, the only cause of anxiety is actually adrenaline. And along with anxiety, you very often have depression. And again, adrenaline is one of the most common causes of depression from internalized anger. Adrenaline is an anger hormone. But we can actually start from the beginning with regard to hormones. Most people have heard of a baby that has colic. Colic. Mm-hmm. And colic is also caused by excess adrenaline. And these are the babies who, when they were in the womb, are the ones that do a lot of kicking, which is also a sign of too much adrenaline. So, but applying progesterone cream to the baby's belly, abdomen, the colic goes away in about 3 minutes. Then there's a thing called the terrible twos, which is also caused by adrenaline. And then, you have bedwetting in children, which is only caused by excess adrenaline. And that you can get rid of in 24 hours instead of having the child deal with it for years. You get rid of it in 24 hours just by lowering adrenaline. And then, going on, you run into, something called ADHD. And ADHD is all about adrenaline. And they put children on toxic drugs. The side effects of these drugs are sudden death. But you can actually get rid of ADHD in about 24 hours, again, just by managing adrenaline.
Why do you think we have such a bumper crop today of anxiety in young people? I know so many young people that are on drugs like Xanax and Ativan, prescribed by their physicians, and they're young. I'm talking about 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. They're all dealing with anxiety. Is it the excess caffeine use? What is it about our environment right now?
Well, when it comes to anxiety, and basically the only thing that causes anxiety is adrenaline. And when it comes to adrenaline, it's always genetic. In other words, if a child has problems related to excess adrenaline, one or both parents also have excess adrenaline. So it's always genetic. But it's real easy.
So wait. I want to stick with that. There's a nuance there that I don't want to miss. Okay. So I just did an interview this morning with Muscular Development Magazine, and one of the things I was talking about the evolutionary transgenerational epigenetic transference. And so we see, and bear with me for a second. Okay. So we see in countries where famine has happened, I'm talking about widespread famine, where people were dying on the streets, like Russia and Ireland. We see the highest rate of depression and alcoholism in those two countries, because transgenerationally, the parents survived a famine. And so the imprint is passed on to the offspring, because they need to be prepared for this may happen again. We need an early warning sign of them to understand that their environment is hostile. So it makes perfect sense that if a parent has this hyperadrenal adrenaline situation, it most likely came from maybe some trauma in their lives. They pass that on to the child because that trauma may show up in their life, and they need to be able to identify it. Because not only do we have genetic expression changes from epigenetics, but we pass along intelligence from us to our offspring epigenetically. This was proven in a rat study where the male rats were shocked every time they smelled cherry, and then they had babies. And when the babies encountered the smell of cherry, they became panicked. Even though they were not shocked, that intelligence was passed along to the child. Good. I just want to make sure everybody understands that everything has a reason when you look at things from an evolutionary perspective. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, fine. And when it comes to intelligence, we talk about adrenaline. Adrenaline is the neurotransmitter that gives people intelligence. And it also enhances creativity. When you talk about ADHD, which is all about adrenaline, in my book called Adrenaline Dominance, I talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The only condition I put in the good section is ADHD. And the reason for that is that the most intelligent, successful, creative people in the world have ADHD. So how bad can it be? And right. It's not a learning disorder. It's an interest disorder. In other words, if the child is interested, he'll focus. If he's not interested, he will not focus. And that's because the adrenaline makes the mind go so quickly, so he gets distracted very easily if he's not interested. But again, other things that people might walk into a doctor's office with, we talk about headaches, we talk about cholesterol. Asthma is another condition. And when you put somebody on progesterone, within about a week or two, they'll find that they don't have to take their medication anymore. So I'm not saying that the lack of progesterone causes asthma, but it certainly can help eliminate. Manage it. Yeah. Another problem that people run into is weight, and weight is almost always related to hormones. People, they know about thyroid, and because the thyroid controls metabolism, but actually the number one hormone that causes weight gain is adrenaline, and that's hard to, correlate, weight and adrenaline. But if you look at the reason why the body puts out adrenaline, it's not fight or flight, because that's a very rare reason that the body puts out adrenaline. The primary function of adrenaline is to raise sugar levels for the brain. Most people don't realize that the brain uses more sugar than any other tissue in the body for weight. And anytime the body detects that the brain is running out of glucose, that's the type of sugar that it uses, it puts out adrenaline to raise glucose levels. And the thing about adrenaline, it peaks at 2:30 in the morning when people are just lying in bed. And when the body puts out adrenaline, it creates stress to the body. And the body responds to stress by putting out another hormone called cortisol. And the first thing cortisol does, it also raises glucose levels through a different process. And so while people are lying in bed, they're making two hormones that raise sugar levels. They're not burning it up. So all that extra sugar the body is producing is now stored in their fat cells as fat. I am convinced it's the number one cause of weight gain, and nobody ever talks about it. There are other things that people complain about. We talked about depression and anxiety. Again, remember, internalization of anger causes depression. What about nausea? I talked about women and fibroids and endometriosis and polycystic ovaries, but morning sickness. When women are nauseated for 3 months, that's caused by estrogen. But then there are some women that actually have nausea and vomiting throughout their entire pregnancy, and now we're talking about adrenaline again. That's the only cause of that excess nausea and vomiting. There's even a condition called cyclical vomiting syndrome, where children, they start vomiting, they can't stop, they wind up hospitalized. Again, a lot of these conditions we're talking about, doctors don't have a clue as to what causes them. And when you don't know the cause of a condition, you can't get rid of it. So, but again, cyclical vomiting syndrome is only caused by adrenaline. And other people, also walk into a doctor's office and complain about aches and pains. So now, we're talking about fibromyalgia, and there are 10 million people in this country with fibromyalgia. They've all been told that there's no cure for it. And yet I tell people with fibromyalgia that if they're going to have chronic pain, it's the best thing they can have, because it's the easiest chronic pain condition to eliminate. Again, it's caused by excess adrenaline, causing muscle to tense up, and you get a buildup of lactic acid, which causes the pain. And also, because they keep the muscle tense 24 hours a day, they complain about fatigue because they use up a lot of energy just keeping the muscle tense. Carl, I guess what I'm trying to tell you that it's not hard to get people well if you understand why they're not well.
Right.
begin.
Focus on the cause as opposed to the symptom.
You're absolutely right. And so a person could say, well, how do I know if I have too much adrenaline? Well, people that have cold hands and cold feet, which is always blamed on an underactive thyroid, but it's actually caused by adrenaline. And,
Why? Vascular constriction in the periphery of the body?
Adrenaline is a survival hormone.
Right.
And so it cuts off blood supply to areas of the body that are not needed for survival.
Right.
For example, the intestines are not needed for survival. So adrenaline cuts off blood supply to the intestines, and that's where irritable bowel syndrome comes from with constipation. It also cuts off blood supply to the salivary glands. And people should understand this because, a lot of doctors do saliva testing, which I never recommend. Yeah. And again, adrenaline cuts off blood supply to the saliva, so hormones don't get into the saliva. So naturopaths who do a lot of saliva testing, they have a condition called adrenal fatigue. Mm-hmm. And adrenal fatigue is a condition that doesn't exist. But it's all based on getting low cortisol levels in saliva when they do tests. If they did a blood test, they would find that these people actually had a high cortisol level. And the problem is that their whole approach to adrenal fatigue is to raise cortisol levels when they're already high to begin with. And cortisol is not it's not a happy hormone. It can damage the immune system. It causes weight gain. It causes osteoporosis. And so, anyway,
I want to talk for a second about a phenomenon that I'm noticing. So, a lot of physicians today are giving their female patients testosterone only, with the thoughts that testosterone will also convert to estradiol through aromatization and other forms of estrogen. But I noticed that these women who are put on testosterone only, they feel like their lives, when they've been on it for a few months, they seem like there's no joy in their life. They don't feel good about their lives. And some of these women I happen to know have amazing lives, amazing wealth, amazing standards of life, but yet they just feel like something is missing. Why would that be from supplying only testosterone to a woman and expecting it to backload all the hormones?
Well, I'm going to assume that these are women that are already in the menopause, and they're no longer making testosterone. So, and testosterone is actually a good hormone to give to women. Mm-hmm. And the number one cause of death in women is heart attacks. And heart attacks occur as a cause of death 6 times more commonly than any other cause of death. And I suspect it's because the testosterone level drops, and because the heart actually has more testosterone receptor sites than any other tissue in the body. Mm-hmm. So it's a good hormone for women from the heart standpoint. But, women also, some enjoy having a good libido, interest in sex. But in order for a woman to have an active libido, they need 2 hormones. One is testosterone, the other is progesterone. Mm-hmm. And so if they're not, and the problem is if they're giving testosterone, which does downregulate into estradiol, it does. But the problem with unopposed estrogen is that that's where breast cancer and 5 other cancers come from. Mm-hmm. So if they're trying to raise estradiol levels, they should always give progesterone, always. Right. To protect these women. But at the same time, progesterone is a natural antidepressant. It will make them feel better. And it also controls insulin.
Now, okay, so I want to stop you there and dig a little deeper. So oral progesterone increases the conversion to something called alloprogesterone. And alloprogesterone has been associated with moodiness, sadness, lethargy. But what you talk about is transdermal progesterone, right? There's a difference through the delivery, right?
I cannot. Thank you for bringing that up. It's extremely important about the delivery of progesterone. Most doctors have converted over to giving women oral progesterone. And oral progesterone, because it goes through the GI tract, goes straight to the liver. And once it goes to the liver converts it into another hormone called allopregnanolone.
Pregnenolone, thank you, allopregnanolone.
Which is not progesterone. And so these women are not being protected, and they're not getting the benefits of progesterone. And yet this is the number one progesterone that doctors are using now is oral progesterone. So I only recommend, progesterone cream or sometimes vaginal suppositories if they have problems with endometriosis or severe fibroids. But otherwise, the cream is extremely important. And just so people have a better understanding about progesterone cream, there are progesterones available, over the counter, but most over the counter progesterones are 2% or less. And the problem with a low strength progesterone is that it can go directly to estrogen receptor sites. And
to estrogen receptor sites?
Yes, it can act like estrogen. So people should always use a 5% progesterone cream, and 5% is the exact strength they need to block adrenaline. 5% means each pump is 50 milligrams, and that's the strength you need to block adrenaline. And it's also the best strength to block estrogen and insulin. So 5% creams are the most beneficial, and that they're available over the counter.
I want to talk about progesterone in the context of a man. You were kind enough to send me a tube of progesterone cream. I found using less than a whole pump worked for me. I didn't wake up groggy. I didn't start to retain water, but I definitely slept deeper. There's no doubt about it. I found that using a pea-sized pump on my wrist right before bed was what. But I want to talk about progesterone for another reason when we come back. Because men who are on HRT, a lot of times around the first full year of being on HRT, they start to experience shedding. And progesterone is actually a natural 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. It actually it conserves testosterone by keeping it from converting to DHT. And men only need a little bit of DHT. When they have too much, they start getting acne on the back, start shedding hair, and they also don't feel that great feeling they had. They were like, I've been on testosterone for a year. It doesn't feel as good anymore. I feel kind of washed out all the time. And a lot of that ties back to the downregulation by the body when you're having exogenous testosterone of producing more progesterone. I want to take a break. Before we do that, I want to promote your book here. People can go to plattwellness.com, Platt wellness.com to get the Adrenal Dominance book or the Miracle of Bioidentical Hormones book. They can also read more about progesterone cream there. And also, I put this up early in the show. Diego Paparella says, I like Dr. Platt. He has an amazing progesterone cream. Apparently, he uses it regularly. I'd also like to challenge C. Hut. If you're still watching, can you please explain what you mean by this platform sucks? I'm not sure if it's the software, if it's me, if it's the questions, but I'd love to learn. So put a little effort in and make another post during this commercial break. We'll be right back with more. Stay tuned. Every day, there's a new wellness trend. Eat that, do this, avoid those. How do you know where to start or who to trust? Inside Tracker helps you cut through the noise by analyzing your blood, your DNA, your lifestyle, and your fitness tracker to provide you with a science-backed, trackable action plan on how to live, age, and perform better. Personalized, one-size-fits-one recommendations to help you optimize you. For a limited time, Inside Tracker is offering Superhuman Radio listeners 25% off the entire store. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Inside Tracker, INSIDETRACKER, to save 25% off. Change begins on the inside. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. Adrenaline. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use code SHR20 to save 20% off your entire first order. Is there something interfering with your happiness or ability to achieve your goals? BetterHelp can help. They will assess your needs and match you with a licensed therapist. This is not a self-help or crisis line. It's professional counseling done securely online. They have a broad range of experts and are available worldwide without having to wait in an uncomfortable waiting room. Get the help you need and start living a happier life today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/betterhelp. That's better, HELP, and receive 10% off your first month of counseling when you use the code SHR. Hey, this is Carl Lenore. Superhuman Radio is the longest running health, fitness, and anti-aging podcast in the world, going into our 16th year of continuous production. If you have a product that you think would appeal to the superhuman nation, we can get you on the air quickly and inexpensively to help promote your brand. Join the ranks of some of the largest and most successful companies in the world who know how great it is to be affiliated with Superhuman Radio. Contact Dan Kapitsky today. That's DAN.KOPITZKE at superhumanradio.net to learn more. I need to share with you all a revolutionary new wearable technology called HapBee. HapBee allows you to enjoy the effects of caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, melatonin, and muscle relaxants without actually ingesting anything. Yes, really. They figured out the unique magnetic signature of each of these molecules and recorded them. Just put the HapBee on, choose the signal you want, and it starts projecting the magnetic signature of that molecule that you choose, like coffee for feeling alert. Go to hapbee.com/SHR. That's HAPBEE.com/SHR to learn more and unlock an $80 discount exclusively for the Superhuman Radio listeners.
Spit that out right now. This is the Human Channel.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Michael Platt about hormone replacement therapy with an emphasis on progesterone, because progesterone seems to be the forgotten. I mean, lots of doctors will prescribe biased, but not progesterone for their female clients. And I don't know any doctors who prescribe progesterone for their male clients. And we're going to talk about the male clients in a second, because it's really an interesting discussion. But we have a question that I want to get up here. It's a long one, so I'm going to read it. This is from Jennifer Lascano. She says, thank you for the show. I'm age 47, peri with periods and all parts, healthy overweight, and on static protocol. Not sure. 2 milligrams of estradiol, weekly split at 200 milligrams of progesterone, 100 milligrams oral, and 100 milligrams rectal. Is spotting normal in the beginning? What ratios of estradiol, progesterone should I aim for? And also, is DIM necessary? Which obviously is supposed to stop the conversion to some of the bad estrogens. What do you think, Doc?
First of all, if it was up to me, I would have her just on progesterone cream and not have her use it orally or rectally. I'm not a big fan of estradiol. I mean, she's taking estradiol and then she's taking a supplement to lower her estrogen levels, which doesn't make sense. If she's, women never stop making estrogen. So, and the only reason they need a high level is if they're trying to get pregnant. But to answer your question, actually, progesterone actually heals the uterus, and it doesn't cause bleeding. But when women first start using progesterone, it's not unusual to get spotting or heavier periods because it's healing the uterus. This is a temporary phenomenon, and so yes, it is normal.
Okay, so thank you, C. Hutt. She said her software keeps crashing. Certainly not you or the good doctor. Sorry. And obviously, this video will be up. You could always go and listen to it in its entirety later, where it may be less frustrating. Jennifer also asks if you can say anything about elevated thyroglobulin, and can that be due to iodine and selenium?
Well, it's interesting about the thyroid, and I always prefer treating, the hormone directly. what's called a free T3, which is it's bioactive, and a free T4 and a TSH. Sometimes a reverse T3, and what causes a reverse T3 is actually cortisol. Cortisol is an anti-thyroid hormone, and when people have a lot of adrenaline, they very often have a lot of cortisol because they're having stress from the adrenaline, and so so it's not unusual when people have a lot of adrenaline to also be low in thyroid at the same time. And but in any event, iodine and selenium both stimulate the thyroid, so it could be that they're causing an elevation of thyroglobulin. I have never looked into that. I have to apologize. Iodine is a very healthy thing, and so is selenium, both healthy supplements. So, I wouldn't worry about the thyroglobulin unless it's creating problems with the thyroid hormones. So,
let's talk about progesterone and its role in men. So, what I said going into the break, if anyone missed it, is that progesterone is an anti-5-alpha reducer. 5-alpha reductase is to testosterone and DHT, what estradiol is to testosterone, and what aromatase is to testosterone and estradiol. These enzymes siphon off testosterone and convert it to other metabolites. In this case, dihydrotestosterone, which is a highly masculinizing. It causes hair growth in the wrong places. It causes hair loss in the right places. It causes a sebaceous gland overactivity, which causes oily skin that leads to types of acne. It's a very necessary hormone. It's what makes men when they're in the womb. It actually causes genitalia transformation to become a penis. So we need DHT. Now, when men are on HRT, and calling it HRT is almost ludicrous, considering that most men are just on testosterone. Doctors look at men like, oh, they're simple. Just give them testosterone. Women are complex. No, men are complex too. And here's proof of that. When men are on testosterone therapy, about a year in, they don't feel as good as they did when they first started. Part of that is because there's a systematic downregulation of progesterone that causes them to be more anxious. It causes them to lose more hair. It causes them to feel washed out. It causes acne. It causes all these problems. But when men supplement with progesterone while on testosterone, they keep that good feeling indefinitely. They don't lose their hair. Talk about progesterone's role in men, please.
Yeah. Well, first of all, most doctors think, and most people think of progesterone as a woman's hormone. What people don't realize that men and women have the identical hormones, different levels, but exactly the same hormones. Men stop making progesterone right around the age of 50 is when they stop making it. And interestingly, it's after the age of 50 that men start getting prostate cancer. And the reason for that, they no longer have any hormone to protect them from estradiol. And men wind up with higher levels of estrogen than women have, after they go through the andropause, and women go through the menopause.
Right.
So the thing about progesterone, it's not a female hormone. It's a male hormone. It's an important hormone because not only is it an alpha reductase inhibitor, it's also an aromatase inhibitor. And why these are important, because it prevents problems with the prostate. DHT also causes prostate enlargement, and it's the estradiol that men produce that causes prostate cancer, and that's why progesterone is always important. And the other thing that happens to men after the age of 50, they start putting on weight around the middle, and the only thing that puts on fat around the middle is insulin. And the thing about progesterone, it also blocks insulin. So here you have a hormone that blocks insulin, it blocks estrogen, and it blocks adrenaline, the three most toxic hormones in the body. An incredibly important hormone, and doctors know nothing about it, or very little about one. And when they do use progesterone, they use oral progesterone.
Here's a question in line with this. Christine Molinex, or Molyneux, I hope I pronounced your name right, Christine, says she was on testosterone pellets for 2 years, and she ended up losing so much hair that she needed a transplant. She felt good on the pellets, but she stopped due to hair loss. and she was not on any progesterone. Could she go back on pellets? And if so, how much? She's 52 years old and weighs 130 pounds. Would you recommend backloading on progesterone before having the pellet put in?
No. I have to be honest with you. I'm probably not the right person to ask about pellets because I don't approve of pellets.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that you know once the pellets are inserted under the skin, you have no control. And the reason why she lost her hair is that they weren't,
she lost the pulsatility that naturally occurs. That's why I don't like pellets, because the pulse is as important as the level and the hormone, because physiologically your body wants it to show up at a certain time and disappear. And when you ignore that and you put a pellet in, it just goes like this and stays there for weeks on end. Yeah.
One of the benefits of using like testosterone cream, which is what I would recommend, is that you're in control. When it comes to men, with men that are using testosterone, they have to be concerned about estradiol. Not only does it cause prostate cancer, but it also causes, blood clots and strokes. Okay. So when you use testosterone cream, the best way of gauging whether or not testosterone is working is with what they call morning erections. And if a man is on testosterone and is getting morning erections, then instead of using it twice a day, he can cut to once a day. If they still maintain the erection, then cut back to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that's the benefit of using cream, is that you're in charge. Now, the same thing with women. Once their libido is there, then they have plenty of testosterone, and they can cut back, I'm just saying, it doesn't take a lot to use hormones correctly, but a little bit of knowledge.
The pellet, Dr. Gino Tutera, before he passed away, I met him because I lived in Phoenix, Arizona for a while, and my sister went to him at Soto Pele. Right. He's the first guy who brought it into the country, and that even back then I thought to myself, this isn't, we know in testosterone therapy for men that the longer acting esters, like libido, which is ridiculously like every 6 months you get that shot, but even cypionate and propionate, they convert to a higher degree of estradiol. When you remove the pulsatile nature of a hormone, and you just have it staying high for weeks on end, the body just doesn't know what to do with that, and you end up with all the quote unquote unwanted effects of that hormone. That's been my experience.
But when it comes to progesterone, what's interesting, you can't overdose on it. So that's not a concern, using it on a daily basis. In fact, I recommend that when women use progesterone, when they have cycles, to use it every day, not to stop when they have their cycle. Mm-hmm. But anyway, if we can go back just a little bit, we talk about people that go to their doctor and they have certain complaints. One of the concerns that a lot of women have is incontinence, and there's two different types of incontinence. One is called urgency incontinence. In other words, all of a sudden during the day they have to run to the bathroom, and as they're running to the toilet, they start getting some leakage. That's urgency incontinence, and that's caused by adrenaline. And that is eliminated just by lowering adrenaline levels. And if you want, we can talk about how to lower adrenaline levels.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because, it's funny. I notice that when I have pretty much gotten off of caffeine completely, except rare occasions where I have to use it. And when I use caffeine, I have to run and pee all the time. And it's that same feeling. And I know you're right, because when I was a kid and we used to play hide and seek in the streets of Brooklyn, whenever I got hid and had a great hiding spot, oh God, I got to pee so bad now, because I was so anxious about getting caught in the game. So adrenaline rises and the urgency kicks in. I get it.
Yeah. On television, they call it an overactive bladder, and some women are getting Botox injections in the bladder to treat this, which means for 3 months they have to self-catheterize themselves every time they need to urinate. But again, overactive bladder, whatever you want to call it, is adrenaline, very easy to fix. Then they have another type of incontinence called stress incontinence, where if they cough or sneeze or jump on a trampoline, urine leaks out. And that's and what happens there, and usually this is seen mostly in women that have had multiple childbirths, is that they lose the muscle control around the urethra. And, you may have heard of, Kegel exercising.
Right, Kegel, right.
But, but a woman can Kegel 24 hours a day. Without testosterone, she will not build any muscles. So it's a very simple matter of going to a compounding pharmacy, getting a prescription for testosterone cream, and using it intravaginally, and then do the Kegel exercises. And in 3 to 6 days, it's gone.
No kidding.
And again, this is something that doctors are not aware of. But another reason why people go see a doctor is insomnia. They have trouble sleeping. And the number one reason why people have trouble sleeping is adrenaline. It can make the mind race also. But some people toss and turn, some people grind their teeth, some people get up at night to urinate. They have something called restless leg syndrome. All this is caused by adrenaline. And again, easy to fix. And then the other thing that people may go to a doctor to talk about is anger. And maybe road rage. And anger and road rage is always caused by adrenaline. And you can get rid of road rage in 24 hours just by lowering adrenaline. Some people have problems related to ringing in the ears, tinnitus.
Mm-hmm.
And tinnitus is almost always caused by tension in the neck. And the only thing that causes tension in the neck, again, is adrenaline. And putting progesterone cream on the back of the neck can eliminate tinnitus. You may have heard of PTSD, and PTSD again is only caused by adrenaline. And then you have people.
Is it because of the trauma? The body retains that angst and that fear, and it keeps overproducing adrenaline.
Well, PTSD is very common in veterans, but you have to remember that the people that go into the Army and Marines, whatever, they already have a lot of adrenaline to begin with, the fight or flight hormone.
Uh-huh.
And so they go in prone to getting PTSD. But again, PTSD is also to be treated just by blocking it and lowering adrenaline. And then you have people that get involved with drugs and alcohol. The reason why most people get involved with drugs and alcohol is just to relax. They have so much adrenaline. But when people go into rehab, they never try to deal with what causes them to be addicted. They just detox them and send them out. And, frankly, recurrent admissions, is what pays for their reason for being. But anyway, but again, adrenaline, it causes people to get into drugs and alcohol.
So they're self-medicating to reduce the adrenaline so they don't feel as anxious.
It's very frustrating for me because I'll be honest with you. There was a time that I wanted to change healthcare in this country, but you run into so many roadblocks, and big pharma, which controls our whole medical system, has no interest in people being healthy. They control the medical boards, they control the FDA, they control what doctors learn in medical school, and they have no interest in people being healthy. And so, obviously, I ran into a lot of roadblocks trying to change healthcare in this country. That's why we have no preventive medicine. They will not allow preventive medicine in this country.
Insurance companies won't pay for it. That's all they have to do. If insurance companies won't pay for it, people won't pay for it themselves. Basically, what I pay for out of my own pocket is preventive medicine. My hormones, my rapamycin once every 2 weeks. My insurance company won't pay for that stuff. We have to take a break. I want to put this back up one more time. The website is Platt, Platt, wellness.com. You can learn about the books. You can also learn more about progesterone cream. When we come back, we're going to talk about progesterone cream and dosing.
Okay.
And I want to also talk about how you are taking too much, because my problem was lethargy in the morning when I took it. I was just groggy. And so let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Knoll Creek Hemp Company's Delta 8 soft chews are the premier Delta 8 product on the market today. Knoll Creek's Delta 8 is produced from high-quality hemp-derived CBD oil, and soft chews are manufactured using proprietary nano-emulsification technique that ensures the Delta 8 soft chew will timely deliver the desired effects cleanly and consistently from piece to piece. In a space where at least 70% of the products fail to meet label claims and where most users of conventional hemp products are left disappointed, Knoll Creek's Delta 8 soft chews are a product you can trust. Visit shrnetwork.biz/delta8. That's DELTA and the number 8, and use the code SHR20 to get 20% off your first order today. Attention meat lovers. I've discovered a snack with just 2 ingredients, meat and salt. That is so tender and delicious you almost can't believe it. That's right, no soy, sugar, or other crap. Our partner Carnivore Snacks nailed it with these mouth-watering snacks. They have a variety too: ribeye, pork loin, leg of lamb, and more, all sourced here in the USA from regenerative farms. Claim your superhuman offer from Carnivore Snacks today at shrnetwork.biz/snacks. That's SNAX. Use the code superhuman for 15% off your first order plus a free 2-ounce pork loin. I keep saying the number one killer is insulin resistance. Managing blood sugar is the key to living long and aging well. But we all like to eat starchy carbohydrates and sugars from time to time. How do I manage this? I use a product called Blood Sugar Breakthrough by Bioptimizers. This easy-to-take supplement is the result of numerous tests to find the absolute best formula for maintaining healthy blood sugar. Blood Sugar Breakthrough works to safely lower blood sugar after meals so that you can maintain a healthy weight and redirect carbohydrates to your muscles where they can be burned as energy. This means you'll avoid the worst effects of high blood sugar, like weight gain and advanced aging, while enjoying more stable energy, mental clarity, and fewer cravings. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blood sugar and save 10% with code SHR10 today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at Synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Adrenaline. Redcon One's new BAR bar is the ultimate soft-baked protein-packed snack bar, powered by peanut butter. Perfect for while on the go to help curb hunger or sneaky sweet tooth cravings. With 20 grams of protein, use as a meal replacement bar or when you're in need of a high-protein snack. Eat a Redcon One bar as a midday snack or for fuel before an intense training session. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Redcon1 and use the code SHR25 and save 25% off these delicious bars today. If you spend any amount of time sitting while at work like I do, I have the chair for you. The Backstrong chair from All 33 is the most comfortable office chair I've ever sat in. That's the truth. Their patented technology allows your body to move the way it's supposed to move while you sit. Designed by a chiropractor to position your pelvis in a way that stacks all 33 of your vertebrae into perfect alignment. The benefits of this ideal posture include relief of back pain, deeper breathing, better digestion, improved circulation, greater focus, sharper memory, and more productivity. Start experiencing these benefits today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/move and use the code SHR100 for a $100 discount on your Backstrong chair.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Welcome back. I'm doing 60 things at the same time behind the scenes here producing.
Okay.
So we have, let's see, I think we have a comment that I need to get up here real quick. Oh, okay. Lots of cutting out. Is it my voice or is it the good doctor's voice, Paulo? If you could let me know, because I can adjust the audio. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about dosing. As I told you, you were kind enough to send me a tube of your progesterone cream, and I found that putting an entire pump on my wrists, and I had to put it on 2 wrists to get it all to cover, was too much. I woke up in the morning groggy, and I woke up groggy for several mornings, and then I started backing it down, and I found that if I just put a pea-size amount and then rub my wrists together right at bedtime, I slept good, but I didn't wake up in the morning groggy. Am I doing the right thing, or should I just stuck it out for a while? Well,
that's usually 1 pump is 50 milligrams. And like I say, that's the exact strength we need to block adrenaline. now it may be that because it was blocking adrenaline, that you may have if you have a low thyroid, that'll kick in and make you tired. So,
well, I take 60 milligrams. I take 1 grain of Armour thyroid, and I've been doing that for years now. So maybe I need more thyroid hormone.
Well, Armour thyroid is mostly T3, and that doesn't have enough T4 in it. Usually, when I have people on thyroid, they're taking 2 thyroid hormones, so both Armour and Synthroid or Lamoxil. So
do you feel so in that case you feel the T4 is lacking? What about there's a product that I did a show on years and years ago called Nature Throid.
Right.
It's supposed to have a better profile of T3 to T4. Would that be a better solution for me than Armour?
Actually, Nature Throid and Armour are very, very similar. Again, Nature Throid doesn't have enough T4 in it either. So
okay. So do you recommend that I just go ahead and do the whole pump in the future and just tough it out for a while?
Well, you're the first person that's ever complained about having fatigue in the morning. I haven't gotten that. With the oral progesterone, I could see that, but not with the cream. That's unusual.
Okay. Is it better maybe I take it earlier in the evening than right at bedtime?
Well, the thing about adrenaline peaks around 2:30 in the morning. So, and when you put so progesterone only lasts for a few hours. Anyway,
it looks like Diego Paparella put up that Armour thyroid on their website. I'm sure he's looking at 38 micrograms of T4 and 9 micrograms of T3. That's what they claim. So that's interesting.
Yeah, the usual replacement dose of T4 is 125 micrograms.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe I can have it compounded. So is that what you would do? Would you have a compounding pharmacy make me a
not necessarily? No, the Armour should be fine. I would just add T4 to it.
Okay.
Now with women, the classic sign of an underactive thyroid is cracked heels. The heels crack. Men very rarely have symptoms.
Right. And also women, is it overactive or underactive when they start to lose the outer edges of their eyebrows?
Brooks sign, that's underactive.
Underactive. That's another one that a lot of women will go, oh, my eyebrows are disappearing. Well, if they start to disappear from the outside in, that could be a sign of low thyroid, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's another one. So let's talk about something else that may not be discussed very often about progesterone. And this is something I think that I kind of alluded to before the show started. And I don't know how much you're aware of this or can contribute, but it's an interesting fact. The strongest anabolic steroid in the world is something called trenbolone. It's a progestin. It's not only highly anabolic, but it also does something. We just did a show about this because now we know why it's so anabolic. Trenbolone raises oxytocin levels in muscle tissue 50-fold. Now, it does, now that I think about it, the side effects of trenbolone are rapid heartbeat, loss of cardio conditioning, sleeplessness, you get night sweats when you're on it. That's blood sugar management more than anything else. But I have used oxytocin, the peptide oxytocin post-workout. When you take a large dose of oxytocin, you feel lethargic, you start sweating, you can't focus. So trenbolone is a progestin that is the most anabolic steroid out there, and it raises oxytocin. What's the relationship between progesterone and oxytocin?
Actually, I'm not aware of any. There might be. It's something I haven't. I apologize for not knowing this, but I don't know. But the symptoms you're describing, it sounds like are from increased adrenaline. That oxytocin is stimulating the release of adrenaline.
Well, it makes sense because it causes blood sugar management issues. And we know that women get hot flashes because of the inappropriate levels of progesterone to estradiol. And that's why they have blood sugar management issues. We had Dr. Mark Gordon on the show many years ago. We discussed this about studies that show this. But the other thing that happens in the middle of the night, the more insulin resistant you are, the more likely that blood sugar drops in the middle of the night will herald a release of adrenaline and cortisol to liberate and raise blood sugar, and that also wakes you up. So is it possible that a lot of the adrenaline, hyperadrenaline issues we have in our population are directly related to the fact that some ridiculous number like 80% of Americans are insulin resistant already? Maybe not full-blown type 2 diabetes, but pre-diabetic. And could that be the link to all the adrenaline?
It could very well be. You know, I mentioned before, adrenaline peaks 2:30 in the morning because that's when the brain runs out of fuel. And women that experience hot flashes around 2:30 in the morning is caused by adrenaline. They'll also find during the day, if they're under stress, that they'll have hot flashes. But again, when it comes to controlling adrenaline, you know, progesterone is important because it blocks adrenaline, but it's not as important as treating the cause of why the body is putting out adrenaline, which is, again, to raise sugar levels for the brain. Mm-hmm. So what that means is that if people provide the right fuel to the brain, the body doesn't have to use adrenaline to do it. And I had sort of indicated that you can actually eliminate excess adrenaline within 24 hours just by eating correctly, and we'll talk about that in a second, and using progesterone cream. You know, it's not hard to get people well. Again, you just have to treat the reason why they're not well. And
so let's talk about the anti-adrenaline diet for a second. You have a book also that provides information for people who want to alter their diet to improve their adrenaline response. I
actually have a 30-day meal plan on my website. It's like $10 that they can download. The brain the brain uses two different fuels. You know, one is glucose, and the best source of glucose for the brain actually comes from vegetables. And you know you don't think of vegetables providing sugar, but they are carbohydrates. They do break down into sugar, but they don't stimulate a lot of insulin. You know, candy and soda are great sources of glucose, but they stimulate a lot of insulin, which lowers sugar levels, defeats the purpose. So vegetables are the best source of glucose for the brain. And then the other fuel, which is maybe even more important, are ketones. And you know, people know about a ketogenic diet, which is a very hard diet to accomplish. But you can get ketones directly from coconut oil or something called MCT oil, medium chain triglyceride oil. And so if people add MCT oil, coconut oil, and vegetables into their meal plan, actually within 24 hours, they can have a significant drop in adrenaline levels. And then, you know, progesterone cream, you know, it's applied to the forearm. You rub the two forearms together, you know, between the wrist and the elbow. Another good place to put progesterone cream would be on the back of the neck if there's tension. People that have what's called restless leg syndrome, they put a pump on each thigh and massage it into the top of their thighs. People that get cramps in their calves or feet, again, that's adrenaline also. They just have to apply it where the cramp is. It'll go away in about 30 seconds. So, and babies, you can apply it anywhere to get rid of colic. And that's how safe progesterone is. If it's safe enough for babies, it's safe enough for anybody.
I did a show probably 10 years ago about a study that showed that there's a new kind of heart failure that's driven by the heart's inability to continue to respond to high adrenaline levels. And this is a decade ago. And we talked about it. Well, like anything else, right? If the body is flooded with adrenaline, eventually it starts to resist the effects of adrenaline. Just like if it's flooded with sugar, it starts to become insulin resistant. So, this question, I don't know that you can answer, but if you could even postulate. So someone who's been in a heightened level of adrenaline for a decade, once they start using progesterone and they start sleeping better and they start feeling better and they're less anxious, how long does it take for the collateral damage of which is like, the blood vessels constricted 24 hours a day because of adrenaline, and the heart becoming less responsive to the demands of adrenaline. How long does it take for the landscape to start to normalize and get back to its normal self?
When somebody has a lot of adrenaline and they first start using progesterone, within minutes, they feel better. Within minutes, they feel more relaxed. They be able to focus better. Remember, ADHD is all about adrenaline, and ADHD is trouble focusing. Neuropathy in the feet, by the way, is also caused by adrenaline. And so applying that to the feet, helps eliminate a lot of neuropathic symptoms. I had a fellow that came into my office. He was about 47, and the reason he came to see me is that every morning he would wake up and vomit. And remember, the only thing that'll cause that kind of vomiting is adrenaline. And he had, severe fibromyalgia. And so I put some progesterone cream on his arms, and he rubbed them together, and we started talking again. And about 5 minutes after he got the cream, he sat back in his chair and he looked at me. He said, "Doc, in my entire life, I have never felt this good." And from the day he left my office, he never had another episode of vomiting when he woke up. And again, it's just another example of when you treat the reason why people are not well, they get better. And it's very rewarding to get people to feel better. And doctors very often never see that. It's a shame.
Do you know who Dr. Uzi Reese is?
Of course, yes.
I met Dr. Reese a few times at some different functions, and he told me his story. And his story was, I'm gonna summarize it. When premenstrual syndrome became all the rage, I guess this is probably in the 80s, let's say. He discovered that progesterone would reduce the side effects of premenstrual syndrome. Women who had really bad periods, they were laid up for days, they didn't feel good, mood swings. He started giving them progesterone cream. And he became so wildly successful that he ended up with like 6 or 7 offices in California. And all they did was treat women who had premenstrual syndrome by giving them progesterone cream, nothing else. That's all he did. And today he's probably one of the most famous gynecologists in America. I know that Oprah Winfrey is one of his patients. He laughs about it. So the power of progesterone has been proven before. Why is it that doctors have ignored this?
It's an excellent question. He's not the first one that used progesterone for PMS. There was a doctor in England that.
Who is it? Dr. Who? I thought you said his name.
Yeah, no, I'll think of it. It's a lady doctor.
Okay.
But what she was dealing with patients that had what's called PMDD. Now, PMDD is a severe form of PMS. It's called premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It's found in about 8% of women that are menstruating. Again, doctors feel there's no cure for it, but doctors say that about everything. But anyway, but women with PMDD are the women that for 10 days out of the month, nobody can live with them because they have severe anger issues and severe mood swings. And but again, it's caused by adrenaline, and it's also too much estrogen. So they have a combination of estrogen dominance and adrenaline dominance. But again, both dominances are treated with progesterone, and just again, it's harmful to me. I keep on reading, like Lady Gaga, severe fibromyalgia. Why is when you have, she has access to the best medical care in the country, and yet fibromyalgia is so easy to treat just by lowering adrenaline.
Interesting. Jennifer Lascano just said, "Oh wow, that was my next question. Concerns about transferring to children, but it's safe for babies. Then great. So let's address that clearly. Transference of topical hormones is a concern for most people today. Is progesterone that innocuous that if you get a little on your baby or your son, it's not going to hurt them?"
Cannot hurt them. Absolutely not. Cannot hurt them. The only cream that is of concern to testosterone to children.
Well, and estradiol. I have a friend whose mother transferred estradiol to his daughter, and she started to display precocious puberty.
Again, I'm not a big fan of estradiol.
Yeah, no, I know that. Yeah. But anyway, so there's no concern with transference to children at all.
Zero. I should mention that there's. Are you familiar with something called type 3 diabetes?
Yeah, brain of the brain, right?
Yeah, it's insulin resistance in the brain, and it's a major precursor to Alzheimer's disease, and they don't have a test for it. However, if somebody already has insulin resistance in the brain, type 3 diabetes, and they use progesterone, within minutes they'll have an outpouring of adrenaline. They'll feel more anxious. They'll have palpitations. They'll have anger. So there is a test for it, and that's actually using progesterone. And the reason
why does progesterone do that?
Well, one of the benefits of progesterone is that it creates some degree of insulin resistance. And when I say it's a benefit, this is why it prevents people from getting sleepy in the afternoon. It prevents people from getting sleepy when they're driving. It prevents people from getting sleepy after eating. So these are all good things. But if somebody already has insulin resistance in the brain, and then they use progesterone, it increases the insulin resistance, makes it even harder to get glucose into the brain, and the body responds to this immediately by putting out more adrenaline. Now, so the whole thing about Alzheimer's is a disease of prevention. But remember, we live in a country where they don't allow preventive medicine. But again, they've shown that people with Alzheimer's who use coconut oil can actually eliminate their Alzheimer's.
Because of the ketones. They produce
ketones go directly into the brain. They don't need insulin. Glucose needs insulin. So the only downside that I know of to progesterone is that if somebody uses it and they get more adrenaline, but this is good information for them to have, because then they could start using coconut oil and MCT oil.
But if they continue to use, does progesterone have the ability to normalize insulin sensitivity of the brain over time?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that, but once people start, if they know they have insulin resistance, they start giving the brain as much fuel as they can, then they can actually start using progesterone. Progesterone actually helps people. You may have heard of people that are called pre-diabetic.
Yeah, sure.
And this is due to when they do a hemoglobin A1C test, which is a test for glucose levels. The number one reason why people are pre-diabetic or have elevated hemoglobin A1C levels is adrenaline. They're not pre-diabetic; they just have a lot of adrenaline. But anyway, I just thought I'd.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, you may have heard of dogs that have separation anxiety.
Yeah, anxiety, adrenaline.
Yeah, absolutely, and progesterone inside the ear of the dog will eliminate it within about 1 minute. Will get rid of separation anxiety. So it's good for dogs. It's good for babies. It's good for anybody.
We're getting ready to do a show with Dr. Betsy Earth about GLP-1 and normalizing insulin sensitivity in the brain, I think this month. So just telling the audience to stick around for that one. Okay. What about using progesterone topically to stop male pattern baldness? If you know that your baldness is DHT related, and for those of you who are interested in looking at this, if you look at the molecule of finasteride and the molecule of progesterone, they're almost exactly identical for this one small additional carbon atom that's there to keep the liver from being able to easily break it down. But when you use progesterone topically, it takes months to see it, but you'll start to see new hair sprouting. Am I correct about that?
Well, you can. But, we talked about people that have excess adrenaline that adrenaline is a survival hormone. And, that's why people get cold hands and cold feet and irritable bowel syndrome, and they get a dry mouth because it cuts off blood supply to the tongue. But it also can cut off blood supply to the scalp. And and
there was a study published 13 years ago that shows that 2/3 of the men that were in this study who had male pattern baldness had poor blood flow to the scalp. True story. There's a study out there that shows it.
So anyway, so in this situation, putting progesterone on the scalp would be beneficial. If they have too much adrenaline, it's cutting off blood supply there. You know, some people get a cold nose. Some people get glaucoma because of this, but again, adrenaline. Yeah.
We're gonna take our last commercial break. When we come back, we'll wrap it up. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. If you spend any amount of time sitting while at work like I do, I have the chair for you. The Backstrong chair from All 33 is the most comfortable office chair I've ever sat in. That's the truth. Their patented technology allows your body to move the way it's supposed to move while you sit. Designed by a chiropractor to position your pelvis in a way that stacks all 33 of your vertebrae into perfect alignment. The benefits of this ideal posture include relief of back pain, deeper breathing, better digestion, improved circulation, greater focus, sharper memory, and more productivity. Start experiencing these benefits today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/move and use the code SHR100 for a $100 discount on your Backstrong chair. I keep saying the number one killer is insulin resistance. Managing blood sugar is the key to living long and aging well. But we all like to eat starchy carbohydrates and sugars from time to time. How do I manage this? I use a product called Blood Sugar Breakthrough by Bioptimizers. This easy-to-take supplement is the result of numerous tests to find the absolute best formula for maintaining healthy blood sugar. Blood Sugar Breakthrough works to safely lower blood sugar after meals so that you can maintain a healthy weight and redirect carbohydrates to your muscles where they can be burned as energy. This means you'll avoid the worst effects of high blood sugar, like weight gain and advanced aging, while enjoying more stable energy, mental clarity, and fewer cravings. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blood sugar and save 10% with code SHR10 today. Adrenaline. Redcon One's new BAR bar is the ultimate soft-baked protein-packed snack bar, powered by peanut butter. Perfect for while on the go to help curb hunger or sneaky sweet tooth cravings. With 20 grams of protein, use as a meal replacement bar or when you're in need of a high-protein snack. Eat a Redcon One bar as a midday snack or for fuel before an intense training session. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Redcon1 and use the code SHR25 and save 25% off these delicious bars today. Knoll Creek Hemp Company's Delta 8 soft chews are the premier Delta 8 product on the market today. Knoll Creek's Delta 8 is produced from high-quality hemp-derived CBD oil, and soft chews are manufactured using proprietary nano-emulsification technique that ensures the Delta 8 soft chew will timely deliver the desired effects cleanly and consistently from piece to piece. In a space where at least 70% of the products fail to meet label claims and where most users of conventional hemp products are left disappointed, Knoll Creek's Delta 8 soft chews are a product you can trust. Visit shrnetwork.biz/Delta8. That's DELTA and the number 8 and use the code SHR20 to get 20% off your first order today. Hey, this is Carl Lenore. Superhuman Radio is the longest running health, fitness, and anti-aging podcast in the world, going into our 16th year of continuous production. If you have a product that you think would appeal to the Superhuman Nation, we can get you on the air quickly and inexpensively to help promote your brand. Join the ranks of some of the largest and most successful companies in the world who know how great it is to be affiliated with Superhuman Radio. Contact Dan Kapitsky today. That's DAN.KOPITZKE at superhumanradio.net to learn more.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Michael Platt. He's a returning guest on the show. We're talking right now about progesterone. We have a couple comments, questions we need to get to. So Robert Thompson is asking this question. He says, how do you avoid elevated hematocrit with TRT? Phlebotomy is a drag. I have some opinions of this, but let's go.
Well, actually, very simply, cut back on the amount of testosterone.
But it's not just that, I've learned. So it comes back to something we talked earlier for Jennifer Lascano's question.
Well, you see, you have to remember, a lot of people are started on testosterone when they don't need to be on testosterone. The number one indication that a man is low in testosterone is that he loses morning erections. If a man is getting morning erections, he does not need testosterone. I just want to let you know.
Okay, but with that being said, there is a large body of evidence that there are people out there with testosterone in the 200 nanogram level that are getting morning erections, and there is evidence that testosterone helps preserve a man's health. And so, these are good scientists that we've had on the show that have done research at great universities, and they have nothing in it to gain from testosterone sales. But I think what you will find is when you use longer acting forms of testosterone, cypionate and anthate, and what's the other one? Decoinate, and the rest of these, they tend to raise red blood cell production, because when you use cream and you honor the pulse, you don't have the hematocrit issue. I know this for a fact.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. So really that's really the number one thing you can do is switch to cream. Now, guys don't want to switch to cream a lot of times because they think it's less effective, or you're going to get more of it. No. Once you get your application dialed in with the elevation in testosterone, then you just stay there for the rest of your life. Diego Paparella says, interesting enough, there's research that makes male pattern baldness is caused by prolactin. Plenty of men with really high DHT never lose their hair. Is there a relationship between prolactin and progesterone, Dr. Platt?
Actually, yes, there is a relationship between prolactin and progesterone, but I'm not aware of high DHT preventing hair loss. I mean, it's like the number one reason why women lose their hair, DHT.
Well, yes. And the problem is that I've learned in 16 years of doing this show is it's never just one thing.
Yeah.
Never. We want it to be desperately. And Big Pharma wants us to think it is desperately. But it's never just one thing. There's interplay between hormones and metabolic conditions and lifestyle. And so it's never just one thing. But I can absolutely understand the role of managing adrenaline, especially in this day and age where we are being bombarded by new, the reason news is the number one watch show from an evolutionary perspective is because we have always wanted to know what threats were in our environment. But now that's expanded to what threats are in other countries. And that's useless information. Knowing that someone is at your front door with a gun, that's valuable information. Knowing what's going on in London right now, that's not valuable information. But yet, we're so desperate to identify the threats in our environment that we gravitate to this stuff. And I'm sure that everybody is hyper adrenalated today, except maybe a handful of people. We have a saying in Italian, capafrisc, clear head. Like, in other words, my mother would say about somebody, oh yeah, well, he's got a clear head. Like, in other words, nothing bothers him. And he probably had very low adrenaline too, in retrospect. So there's something to that, I bet.
There's one thing that I neglected to mention. Creative people actually have the most adrenaline. And if you look at the music industry, a lot of drugs and alcohol. People just trying to chill out. So creative people have the most adrenaline, which means that they're also at a lot of risk for weight gain because adrenaline, raises sugar levels. So.
The books can be found at his website, and that's Platt Wellness, PLATT wellness.com, as well as you can buy the progesterone cream there, right?
Right. We have two progesterone creams, one with oil of lavender, one without, but they're both exactly, they're both equally effective.
Why the oil of lavender? Because it's relaxing smell?
It creates some degree of relaxation, but it's not necessary.
Right. Can I ask, just out of curiosity, how much a tube of progesterone cream costs?
Well, normally it costs $49, but we very often have sales. In fact, we just had one where there was $10 off, so it's like $39.
And how long would that last a person using just one pump a day?
Well, if they use one pump a day, it'll last more than a month. It'll last about 6 weeks. If they use it twice a day, it should be about a month. If they use it more than, like I said, you can't overdose on it. So if they're using it 3 or 4 times a day, it'll last less than a month.
Yeah, but obviously, if you're using it that much, you need it. You need it. If you're using it 3 or 4 times a day, you really need it. So the price shouldn't be the issue at the point in time. Listen, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today, Dr. Platt.
Always a pleasure. So,
and we'll see you again, I'm sure. Take care.
Okay, you too.
And that's just the beginning of the week. We have great shows all week. And please share the shows. Always share the shows. You never know whose life you're going to change. You know, you send a show to somebody and they listen to it, they take some action, and next thing you know, they feel better. So, and that's what this show is all about. That's all I've ever wanted to do. I've only ever wanted to give people information to make good decisions, nothing else. And you can help me by passing the show around. All right, we'll see you tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. And don't forget, muscle is metabolic currency. So get into the gym and make a deposit today, because stronger is younger. If you're getting stronger, in my book, you're getting younger. See you tomorrow.